So this is a little bit complicated. I'll explain. What I'm looking at are contract orders and purchases made out of Malaysia or related to Malaysia. So lists Malaysia as one of the categories on the US government's website for contracts and payments. And these are before or after MH370 disappeared on the 8th of March 2014. And I'm looking specifically for any costs that might relate to the method of disappearance of the aeroplane, which relates to cargo, such as a couple of ton of lithium batteries, 4 ton of mangosteen, obviously the logistics, which would be people like Lockheed Martin or people in the warfare category of the Navy and the US Air Force that may have been involved in potentially taking the plane off course. We've also got the scenario from Ashton Forbes' video of this course being taken off by 3 drones. So there might be some sort of advanced technology UAV type equipment there. But we're looking for payments that happen in and out of the US government to the Malaysian region around 2014. And what do we find? Well, we find obvious ones that stand out, like just under $1 million going to Boeing. We have a huge order for Lockheed Martin for scientific technical equipment. We even have an order that is actually specified as bombs. We clearly have lots of Air Force and Navy research, but we also have things like Cuomo, who was the head of Boeing, who left the head of Boeing position and went to a company called VSE in 2014. At the time that the plane was disappearing, he took on a new role at VSE, and this has turned up some massive deals and money being transferred to VSE, where he was in his new role, as well as Boeing, where he was in his old role. Now, bearing in mind the Malaysian Airlines relationship, let's say, with Boeing, following the flight has not been good because Boeing and Malaysia have disagreed on what information should be shared with members of the public. We've also got things that relate to the actual American embassy in Kuala Lumpur that look a bit strange. A huge order, I think several £1,000s for fruit and vegetables, which may or may not relate to buying 2-3 ton of mangosteen. We have sudden express deliveries of cargo before the plane took off. We have a lot of hotels, and we have reports from people listed as the Commander General. We even have the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, with a big payment going through. And then we have translation and interpretation. Now, I mean, if we worked on the scenario that all the people on the plane actually were taken to Diego Garcia or some other area where they needed looking after, where they needed supplies, where they maybe needed translation services, because obviously the majority of them were from China and Malaysia, that may or may not fit in. I mean, some of these are, very difficult to pin down whether they have any relation to it. This is an archive which I am currently going through to try and work that out. So again, I'm appealing for help. I'm just one person in the UK who doesn't even understand half of the US system. But I'm just working on logic. And to me, these massive amounts of payments, particularly to different departments, to the warfare departments and departments of the United States. There's even departments that are not in the United States. Well, one that says it's related to NASA science and is mentioning Moscow. And then we've got the Persian News Network having a lot of money that is relating to Malaysia. All very, very strange. And then we know Malaysia is rich with oil. We know that at the time this was happening, there was a massive financial crisis going on. Lots of money laundering, the DOJ, Goldman Sachs, J-Lo, the multi-millionaire business person. And then you had Fat Leonard, this guy that ripped off 440, however, no, actually it was something like 20 million, ripped off 20 million from the US Navy operating in the Singapore, Malaysia region, all at the same time. And Fat Leonard, who also had, I think it was 444 naval officers on the book of this Malaysian logistics guy who was moving all the US Navy ships around at the time and was certainly, making mistakes like using Chinese servers to put all the data on when he knew the pre-schedules of where these ships and clearly their munitions were going. There was so much happening in Malaysia at the time, but obviously if you've seen my videos, my suspicion is that MH370 was taken out by the US military simply in order to get a military strategic advancement on China and Russia in the field of very precise laser precision weapons that were going to be absolutely fundamental to taking out UAVs, drones. We know these were being tested in the Persian Gulf and that the Freescale company, which had 20 employees on board, would have had some sort of patent and legal right to that technology. There's a lot more detail there, but I'm happy to share it. There's already a lot on my profile. The point being is these payments that we know on record are coming out of the US government and many of the military departments into Malaysia do not add up. And in particular, big payments going to Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and, well, let's just say 3 tons of mangosteen and a big bill for fruit from the American Embassy in Kuala Lumpur don't make sense, do they? If you can help me, please come forward. And constructive criticism and questions are welcome. I won't know all the answers, but I'm trying my best. And very strangely, as you will also see a reference to, somebody knows that I'm investigating something that they don't want me to know. Because on Sunday, the 26th of January, I got locked out of all of the American contracts and payment systems, invoices, and all the detailed PDFs that you can download that do relate to Malaysia, and particularly the years 2013, 2014, and 2015, which are obviously the ones I am investigating. I tried many different ISPs, I tried different VPNs, and in the end, I had nowhere to go, so I called on a helper. I'm not going to give the names away, but thank you very much to my US colleague who has been helping me with this. So that's it for now. I've done the hard work in proving, obviously, all the motive and the big connection with LARS, LARS, and LAWS, LAWS, which were the weapon precision laser guided missile systems that the US Navy needed total legal control of, and that involved getting rid of Freescale, of which there were 20 people on board. My thoughts go to the families and the loved ones of the 239 passengers on MH370, and I will continue to get all the detail so that there is absolutely no doubt at all what happened.